Good morning, everyone. Still morning. I'm very happy here this morning to be with our players. So we have these 5 gentlemen here. And in fact, last end of November 28, the 4 gentlemen, except for Zhu Wei, they were with us in Labuan with our Go Digital Day. So we really had a good session for that day. So today we will be here to discuss, as they are our players, so to discuss their journey in Labuan IBFC, and perhaps we can take it from the beginning, and then later on we can go in details. Of course, being a regulator, probably we will also look at the aspect of regulation and also how we as Labuan Financial Services Authority can assist to help make the fintech businesses in the center go even further. So we have here Zhu Wei. He's actually from Axinan, from the one of our InsurTech player. And we have Praveen from Belfrics, one of our digital trading platform in Labuan. Owen from Neurogine, and Henry, of course, from Fusang, and also Gavin from HWGG. So to start with, perhaps I will allow all the gentlemen here to actually tell us about how they first set up in Labuan and what do they do, and also anything they would like to, to introduce about their company and their products and services. Perhaps Zhu Wei? Still working?
Hello. Hi, this is Wei Zhu from Axinan. So we are a Singapore-based InsurTech company, and we are, so for us, right, our goal is to be digital insurance player for Southeast Asia. So we love the Southeast Asian market. It's a fantastic growing market, especially for the digital economies, right? So for us, we're really focusing on building at this stage a set of lifestyle micro-insurance product for the variety of digital ecosystems, starting with e-commerce and then getting to telco, health, and travel space. So we started a journey to look into a Labuan insurance license. I think slightly, I mean, the initial engagement was maybe 2 years ago, but we started the process last year, and thanks to the IBFC's tremendous help, I think the process was, for us, I think the journey was really smooth and a very, I would say, I always felt like a heartwarming and how welcome and how incredibly helpful the IBFC and Labuan FCSA has been to us. Really help us guys through the journey, and a variety of other helps in terms of getting the so for example, the local entity setting up, a variety of things. And so now we've actually become, I think, the first InsurTech player to have been granted license in Labuan. And the license we've gotten, I think it's sort of a dual license. It's a GI license with a reinsurance capability. And we've already, I believe, started using it. We, of course, this is like the first time for us doing a full license. While we partner with many insurance companies throughout the region, so including both Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia, Thailand, Philippines, this license that we got from Labuan, I think, is definitely very interesting and potentially very helpful to us. So some of this, I think, of course, to get the what we call the digital insurance to be fully functional from Labuan will still take time. It will still take time for ratings and all the other things. But already we see that it is being helpful for us when we work with a variety of insurance partners throughout the region, especially when it comes to some of the innovative new products, where we're able to utilize our Labuan reinsurance to be able to really like show that we are insurtech player that can put a skin in the game, that can actually share on some of the risks, and that helps getting new product rollout faster. So I think so far the journey has been very exciting, and I'm very looking forward to working with Labuan FSA and really like I think making insurtech and general insurance for Labuan to be I think a top entities in Southeast Asia. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Praveen. I'm the founder and CEO for Belfrics. We are a blockchain technology firm from Malaysia. We started in 2014, and I did approach LFSA in 2014-15 time with the technology. It was a completely different LFSA at that point in time and what we see right now. So it has been a fantastic journey even for LFSA also, because the way in which how they advanced with the licenses was pretty commendable. So I have been following LFSA for many years and brought in many companies also over here. So what we did was we went to other countries first. We established ourselves over there, and then when we came back to LFSA, and we are currently regulated by them. We deal with so many regulators globally, approximately around 11 central banks. And we are advisors to multiple central banks also in terms of digital adoption. And the way in which how the license regime has been developed by LFSA for the digital currency is pretty good enough as compared to many other regions. And the rate of adoption and the rate of approval has been also pretty good. So we look forward to operate from this particular region to target Asian markets. Thanks.
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Owen, Neurogine's founder and CEO. Professionally, I'm a software engineer. Just by chance, I have to become an entrepreneur. I've invested my own money, $1.6 and more million to my company. We developed the product 2 years first before we launched it to markets. And then we showed it to FSA. We were so thankful to FSA for the efficiencies to approve us. And upon the approvals, we passed 11 months. We have 4 countries, 5 banks using our platform. Our platforms are mobile banking platform, internet banking platform. And next month, we're going to launch crypto payroll services in the United States. That's what we offer right now. And one of the coolest products, we're also offering the mobile payment exchange, where we do cross-border clearinghouse between banks, countries. Very excited to be part of the LFSA members. Doing a lot of cool guys here today. I learned a lot of them, and I look forward to meet you guys probably after this event. Yeah, thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Everyone's still awake right before lunch? I am Henry Chong, and I am the CEO of Fusang. Fusang's mission is to build the financial infrastructure to digitize and trade the securities and assets of other mission-driven companies. We believe that this is necessary because a world in which companies are aligned with their customers and their communities is just a better world. We do this through the Fusang Exchange, a licensed digital securities exchange in Labuan, Fusang Custody, our digital asset custody, issuance and settlement platform, and Fusang Digital Identity, our AI-driven investor identification and compliance platform. So why? Why are we doing all of this? Because we think that people deserve to own the companies that they already use and love every day. And I'll explain later on what that means and how we do it.
Hi everyone, my name is Gavin, and I'm from HWGG Capital. So we are a blockchain payment solution company. So what we do is actually we enable payment in the modern world, in the digital assets form to the traditional business, because not necessarily a lot of traditional business understand about digital assets or cryptocurrency. So we are the bridge in between these two markets. How we come about Labuan FSA is actually very funny, because 2 years ago, our company, our parent company, started exploring accepting digital assets as a form of payment, but realized the pain points where we need to look for exchanges to liquidate into fiat and everything. So we started to search around the region, for jurisdiction which appropriate licenses and also guidelines for these businesses. And we found that Labuan FSA actually is very keen to explore this. And since then, we have been with the Labuan FSA until today. Thank you.
Okay, thank you guys. Having said that, as you know, even for Labuan IBFC, we are pretty new. Basically, it just so happened, like Encik Daniel, our Director General, mentioned earlier, that in our laws, we have the legacy licenses that we could use in order to provide licenses to our players that wants to actually go into the digital sphere. So basically, from there, we continue to, to innovate ourselves in order to, to facilitate our players to come and set up, because I think that this is an opportunity that we cannot lose. And in fact, I think that there are other centers that are also going through this and then trying to capture this market. So can you guys just, in terms of your own businesses, your own setup, because fintech is pretty, in a way, is pretty new. So what are your challenges? What are the things that you have to face in order for you to actually have this thing in place? Zhu Wei.
Right, I think, so we're in the insurance space. Insurance, I think it's, I think distribution is always one of the tough ones to deal with, because not everybody wakes up in the morning and think about that they're gonna go buy insurance. So we've looked into, so I think in the last 2 years, we've worked on a variety of distribution channels. Mainly what we found is that B2B2C is probably the right channel for us to work with. We've worked on our own B2 direct to consumer channel as well. But what we found is that I think the CAG costs is definitely too high for the set of insurance that you buy. But B2B, I believe, is the right approach. And so for that, we've basically are able to work with a whole bunch of the top e-commerce players in Southeast Asia. And that I think has worked out for us very well. I think we now today are the top insurtech companies in terms of our numbers in the e-commerce ecosystem. And in this regard, I think where we found that we've added value is on a few areas, right? One is really a deeply tech-enabled solution is necessary. So this is where we build up our full stack capabilities, all the way from distribution to risk assessment to fraud detections, and also very importantly to claims management. And I think that's where I think as a insurtech player, when you're getting into sort of a more traditional line of business, we really need to look at how you differentiate yourselves and how to make your positions more defensible. I think if we look at the history of how different industries get disrupted, it's typically the case where many of the traditional players, whether, for example, if they're in the retail business or in the traditional brokerage business, you can, if you don't add value, then you really should be worried. People can replace you very easily if you don't have really good tech-enabled value add, or that you have the efficiencies. So this is where I think for us, for Axinan, we really work hard on to build values, whether that's, for example, using our AI technology to enable things like dynamic premium calculations, or to use our like computer vision and AI technologies to help detect and reduce fraud. And those, I think, are, over the long term will becomes one of the things that's defensible for any tech players in the fintech space. In terms of the Labuan experience, I think one of the things that we found is that if we're purely just being an intermediary or being a tech enabler, there's still limitations as to how much we can change for the financial industry, because I think ultimately, so we come in the insurance industry, the ability to really, put things on your balance book, taking the risks, have a skin in the game, I think ultimately becomes a very important thing. And I think this is where working with Labuan FSA, I think will help us build that critical capability down the road. Yeah.
We don't have much of an issue with regulators. Rather, our main issue is with financial institutions, banks, and the so-called even insurance companies, government agencies. Basically because the processes and products that what we supply to these agencies are not being adopted. So we have done more than 25 different POCs globally, including governments, banks, and all. But when it comes to adoption or moving on to the mainstream, they are still having a wait and watch situation. And not only that, smaller companies like us are not easily accepted by the so-called big financial institutions, because after all the POCs, ultimately they might go in for the big fours or the people who already have established processes previously. So this is one of the major issues that what we face. So the kind of adoption that what we talk about in terms of blockchain technology is predominantly muted by the so-called institutions who are sitting on the sidelines, waiting to see what other people do. So in terms of revenue, 90% of the revenue comes from the peer-to-peer market, whether it is trading activities or providing a services that what we do, we directly go to the peer-to-peer system. So when it is a peer-to-peer system, what happens is that it's an inside-out market. So the institution does not like that one, right? So they again are creating consortiums. They are creating interbank KYC policies, KYC processes, wherein which they can again control the market within the system. There will be people who might disagree with me, but this is what is happening currently. But wherein which we work on a peer-to-peer system, wherein which you, me, we all can be part of a system and communicate with each and every institutions in a decentralized manner. So this particular concept, according to me, will take more time. So I put myself into a new breed of technology company called BlockTech company as compared to fintech companies, because fintech companies still rely on the core banking system, wherein which we rely on the blockchain system, which is outside the core banking system. So we are seen as a threat to the banks. So that's one of the most major challenges that what we face.
Is there any way for collaboration or anything like that?
Yeah, definitely. Collaboration is there. In fact, banks are buying out smaller fintech companies, smaller blockchain companies. But I don't see much of real case applications as of now being adopted on a global scale manner. It's happening in pockets, restricted to experiments, inter-organizational experiments, but not into the real world scenarios. So it might take some time. It will take some time. World is slow and steadily moving on to that particular stage. But currently, companies like us, we face the challenge of not being accepted by those institutions. That's where financially it puts a burden into our companies also.
Mm-hmm.
Right. The journey for fintech company like us, we can speak of many fintech like us. We have profuse of technologies. We keep on pushing the technology limits. Now I just concurred Wilson and Robert the pain points. So So that's where we comes in, right? We are fintech. We continue to push our technologies to the limit, and we address every trifling values to bring to the table to make it more economic sense, market acceptance, to increase their profit margins, to be how to recognize the earning more efficient. So that's the fintech comes in. Now, the way we fintech comes in is that along the journey, sometimes we face some of insurmountable challenges. Opening accounts, right? We're trying to be very, have to put up very rigorous look and amiable kind of approach to convince the banks that we're not a threat. We're actually trying to improve the ecosystems that bring in whether it's a payee or receiver, whether it's a remittance of the services, whether P2P, or the crowdfundings. So the challenge that we face is we are just very good to do what we do, which is technology, pushing technology to the limit every day. What we face is there are so many regulatory that we have to compliance. Well, we comply with FSA. We constantly attend lessons given by ISA. That's very, very thankful. But our business not just between these four walls here, right? We have to comply with other regions, other countries, like FECA in the United States, FEMA in Europe. You know, there's so many compliances that OEDCs, AML, and so forth, so just like the DG just mentioned today. Now, if this body regulatory, they give us some knowledge portal, we can just grab from there, and we don't have to go through the same experience like David Chen, have to travel 40 countries to talk to every regulatory. This doesn't make sense for entrepreneurs like us. Slow us down, we can reach to the market, and that's just tough for us. So if FSA has a open door for us to talk to many regulatory, getting sense of the honeypot kind of knowledge, compliance, regulations, and so forth and so on, then we as a fintech can address the market more efficient, right? More compliant, so we're going to get to jail. We get fined. Just me. So fintech is not about technology we worry about. We worry about violating the country's regulations, the policy of the banks. We will continue to address that. So thank God through patience as a fintech, we got through some of the FSA, IBFC, that kind of event to open door for us. So we gradually enter into the market to be acceptance by banks. Yeah, we recognize, we conquer the points, the pain points, the need a loss experience actually to prove to the banks that we can do the job. What we're always lacking is the informations, regulatory, right? So we make sure we compliance, not just paying tax. So that is the most challenging for fintech company like us along the journey. And yeah, that is how it is, right?
I guess I'll let Henry and Gavin to comment. I mean, to say your and then after that we'll talk about all these issues, especially like opening our accounts and things like that. So, Henry.
Opportunities and challenges. To be very brief, I think our opportunity is always in understanding our customer needs. I think the danger for us and any startup is always in getting enamored with technology and building things because it is cool and not because it delivers any real value to customers. And that is always the thing that we need to focus on. What are we doing for our customers? Challenges are always, to be honest, I hear a lot of, if I'm being blunt, a lot of complaining from all kinds of participants, including in you might call it the legacy financial space. A lot of complaining and a lot of being afraid. People are afraid because of anything that is new and new technology. And I hear people complain endlessly that the technology isn't ready, that the regulators don't know what they're talking about, that the environments aren't there, there's all kinds of things. And honestly, I think all of that is hogwash. I think that certainly in Labuan, we do have the right environment. We're at the right place at the right time. I think that the technology, and we all use different tech in what we do, I think the technology is there. I think that the environment is ready, and I think that we know how to do it, and we can do these things today. A quick plug, perhaps, for Labuan. We've recently set up the Labuan FinTech Association, as the DG mentioned this morning. Yes. Because we think that as friendly as LFSA and as IBFC are in promoting the jurisdiction, we need a body for industry. And I would encourage all of you to come find me later, or one of my people, and we can sign you up to the FinTech Association. I honestly believe that this is the right time for Labuan. You know, in a digital world, I think a place like Labuan has a chance to catapult itself into being the fintech hub of Asia. And I really believe that, balls to bones. I think this is the right time. And I think that if we can get everyone in the ecosystem to come together, and I think everyone is there, you know, we have banks and law firms and audit firms and insurance companies all in our association. Yes. And it's just a question of understanding how to align all of our interests so that there is clarity, we are all on the same page, and we're all marching in the same direction.
I think most of the challenges has been addressed, but I just want to echo what the panels just said. I think the market currently, for us, especially for payment solution, I think the market currently lacks a bit of initiative to take the knowledge, even in user side or even with institutions. Because with institutions, I'm sure a lot of people in the fintech space have problems with big institutions, especially banks and all. But the problem I find when we communicate with banks is that their reluctancy to explore, you know, what your technology is about, how are you able to collaborate with the banks? Because you know, a lot of banks are concerned with the KYC and AML policy, but actually fintech company, I believe, now we have sufficient technology to provide all these information of KYC. We even, as a payment solution itself, we even implement KYT, which is know your transactions, where we are able to trace and identify where your cryptocurrency or digital assets come from, which I think should be explored by the financial institutions, you know, to get us on board and to expand on this market. On the user side, I don't really blame the Malaysia market because prior to Labuan FSA, Malaysia have no real guidelines and rules for the fintech companies, and so all the interesting projects are going to our nearby companies rather than nearby regions rather than coming into Malaysia. So when there's no projects coming in, there's no fund coming in, so there's no way for our talents in Malaysia to, you know, grow because they have no project to participate in. So one of the main issues for our company is, of course, talent. I'm not sure about you know, our fellow panelists here, but most of my talents is from other countries, like, you know, people from China, people from Vietnam with strong knowledge in the blockchain itself. I definitely think that is one of the points that we should address. But with Labuan FSA right now pushing this initiative to get more fintech company on board into Labuan, hopefully more projects will come in and we will be able to develop our homegrown talents.
I was just going to come to that talent because when you talk about digitization, when you talk about all this, you know, space, do we need people, or do you need numbers, or do you just need the systems to be there? So, if you talk about talent, how many and what do you need in terms of talent? Anyone?
Maybe I can go first. I think the only thing we do is people. Okay. You know, especially as technology companies, all we have is a bunch of people sitting in front of computers. We don't do anything else. Okay. We don't have, as Karl Marx would call it, capital, in the sense of machinery. You know, we're just people doing things, coming up with ideas. I personally think we've got a great Labuan team.
Okay.
We have, I mean, I guess us as a company are headquartered there. Our biggest office and our biggest team is there. And someone from my team can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think all of the people we have in Labuan are Malaysians.
Good. Yeah. Good.
Yeah. We do have challenges in terms of hiring talents, especially the blockchain technology is quite nascent. So to get an experienced talent is quite difficult, and we also, through our academy, we started training the people also. But the market is so tight that after 6 months of experience in our company, they can be easily hired by other company also. So there is definitely a crunch in this particular market. But slow and steadily, new academies are coming up, and over a period of time, this should get normalized. But as my colleague rightly pointed out, that more and more regulatory support and association support comes in. External agencies, external companies will come into the country, and that will boost up, the tech community also over here.
I know that you actually, Belfrics are in a multiple number of countries and stuff. So basically, this issue of talents, is it like everywhere or certain pockets of the countries?
We are there in 11 countries, and India is one among that country.
Okay.
So the maximum number of talents that is available is in India. Okay. And one more country is China, definitely. Mm-hmm. So, but due to the regulatory issues, we were not there in China, and we are planning to enter China the coming year with the Chinese national coin that has come in, and the change in the government towards the blockchain technology. So that has prompted us to enter China. But as of now, other regions, yes, we face the same issue across the globe to get the new talents. So that's why we floated our own academy itself, so that we can teach the people. And we have also tied up with multiple universities to come up with blockchain courses. So we teach them, we prepare them, and the good talents we hire, and we also make them ready for even other companies also to hire.
Yeah, in terms of talent, we're never afraid a fresh engineer or any gender of any race come from any countries. We were constantly looking for a character, persons who are hungry to learn. We don't mind the person has zero knowledge in what they do, especially as long as they love programming, because I'm a programmer. So we have the last trip I was in Labuan, and I was contributing to UMS Labuan to actually recruit Labuan's fresh graduate engineers, or those people even from 5 SPM a degree, because these guys, they have no chance to go to extend their college, but they have a great mind, they have a great concept of logic, because programming is about logic, right? The algorithm, logics, the architectures, the framework. So yeah, the talents is very much we're looking for the character, because we have a program to bring up a fresh graduate by not giving them a backfire of fear. Many of the programmers just dive in and says, I need to know this, I need to do that, I must find experience, how to quantify fires. So we talk to UMS Labuan and UMS in Sabah, KK. We say that, look, if you come and join us, we have a program that says, let's start, first of all, let's get an analogy that, do you love swimming? Yes, I like to be swimming. Do you want to be the best swimmer? Yes, I want to be a swimmer. So to train them, you have to give them a very shallow pool, right? A 3-feet pool for them to swim. Now you get ready to move them to the 6-feet pool. Oh, now you can do trading water. Then you move into the 12-feet pool. They can dive deep and can swim with stamina, with speed. So that's how we're trying to encourage youngsters, whether it's non-degree holders, degree holders, or master's degrees, whichever they come from. The heart is this character. They want to learn or not. Then Neurogine have a platform for them to dive in to adapt the programmings. So I think it's very hard to say it's tough challenge of getting talent, not talents, because as a leading role for us, like CEO, we have to be very proud to what we do. So we must constantly give them a guidance, a sandbox for them to play without fear of making mistakes. So this is where I solve my own resources, talent issues. Yeah.
So I want to ask you about what do you refer to about those talents? Are you talking about challenges like recruiting talent for Labuan, the island, or Malaysia, or in general in different regions?
In general,
Okay.
but then later on you can go dive into Labuan itself, because I'm just thinking that talent is actually, I mean, I guess not just Labuan in the sense we are an island. Sometimes people say that it's quite difficult to get talent on the island itself. But I guess that if you look at the whole spectrum of this business, and I think that because it's fairly new, even though our generations now, all the millennials and stuff, is all high-tech savvy, you know, including my children. I mean, they are all talking about gadgets and this and that. So for me, I guess the pool is there for us to actually, you know, get. But again, when you talk about talent, be it in Labuan or in any of the countries that you, what, like Owen mentioned just now, is it like just after high school, or is it you need to have a software engineer? You know, what are the qualifications or criteria that you look at in order to have talents in company?
Right. So you know, I guess all of us are technology companies. I assume that here we're mainly talk about engineering talent, because I think the financial talent that at least feels to me is relatively easier to get. Supply and demand is more balanced, but it's really like the engineers, the designer talents that I think we have this acute short supplies. It seems to be the case like everywhere. I mean, I've done this hiring at, you know, like so many countries, right? Malaysia, where I find it really difficult, by the way. Singapore, China, Taiwan, US, Vietnam. It seems that every place is hard, right? Singapore, for example, where we're headquartered, it's getting increasingly difficult to hire the right talent. It's just I think the demand is just far outstrip supplies. There's only so much that, you know, you can get educated. The schools can graduate the talent. I think you asked a question about, you know, what qualifies. You know, I come from an engineering background. I've been a programmer for like probably 20 years. What I found is that, you know, I think so far in the computer science and field, and also in terms of programming, it does unfortunately takes a unique talent to qualify to be a good software engineer. You know, I've seen people who are super smart, who are, you know, some of the, you know, most talented people in many fields, but when it comes to programming, they just don't get it. So it's almost like you either get it or you don't. And of course, also I have seen, like back in my old days when I was at Facebook, I've seen some like really talented, super talented young people who did not even graduate from college, yet have shown incredible talent in this space. So I would say that, you know, of course, nowadays as education, especially for computer science, gets a lot more popular, I think graduate will see a greater supplies, but for a long time it will be a acute shortage. Yeah.
I guess that's when we talk about development, we talk about products and all that. But I guess that in any companies and stuff, you will also need your compliance officers, your risk managers. So, you know, the accountants and also the HR and all that. So the support services and all that will still be part and parcel of the company.
It's true, because we are currently 200 plus employees, and among that, the tech talent is approximately 60 plus. So the rest of the talents are not tech guys. I need accountants who understand the digital currency. I need the salespeople who can speak the new technology. So there's a whole lot of categories that are in place. So don't assume that you know, blockchain is only for the tech entities. Even though we automate a lot of things, but still we need the manpower who can actually run this particular system also. So yes, what you said is correct, that, you know, across the board we can hire the people onto this technology.
Yes. I have a couple of questions here that I will just share with the panelists. When we talk about the bank accounts earlier, and I think that it's not new in Labuan, we have all these issues of account opening, for, especially with the banks, because the banks nowadays are getting a lot more, in a way, the KYC, the AML requirements and stuff is actually requiring them to be a lot more selective and stuff as compared to previous time. So when you talk about these issues and stuff, any tips? One of the questions is that any tips to convince FIs to be more receptive?
Shall I take that answer?
I know, Praveen, because you brought this up in Labuan as well.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
So one of the tip would be that we parallelly provide a solution to the consumers so that they understand that if we don't innovate, the business will be taken out by somebody else. So with the so-called companies who can issue stable coin, like the people who are sitting over here. So I am able to provide a solution for consumers without even touching the bank. So only with their tokens and with the digital product that what we have, whether it is a tokenized real estate or a car or whatever it is, as long as they are able to counter the transactions with the digital currency, I am able to do that one. So with these innovations coming into picture, it won't take much of a time for the bank to realize that without them also we will be able to run the business. Like you must be familiar with USDT and many other stable coins, which are being moved. Even in our own exchange, we on a daily basis we move millions of dollars. And these are businesses which has been completely taken away from the banks. Approximately around $13-14 million of business that we are doing on a daily basis. And many of the banks, including the Singapore banks, have closed our accounts earlier. So that's a business which has gone away from the bank. So I assume that the only way to do this is to continue what we are doing, so that slow and steadily they will come back to the same model.
Well, one of the
So for us as a payment company, what we try to do is that we try to let, exactly like what Praveen said, I try to work with financial institutions to show them that actually all this has been working on the background in the society itself. They call it social banking or whatsoever. Just like, for example, of USDT, people are trading USDT every day using their personal accounts. So meaning you say it does go through the banking system without the financial institutions knowing about it. So why not, when we onboard a company that can give you all the data to show them what kind of transaction is being transacted using these digital currencies? So what we try to do is that we always try to speak to the financial institution to let them know, okay, actually this is happening, even in the economy itself, even today itself, without you knowing. So we will try to convince them to, why not get us on board and work together and see if we can get a better solution. Because, for example, there are banks in the States right now, which are specifically, specifically catered to the digital asset market, processing digital asset transactions. And their queue there is huge. It is like 6 months queue. Yeah. So if the financial institutions in the region don't start looking at this, all the business will go to other countries. So I think what Labuan is trying to push is really good, and hopefully the financial institutions in the region will take this up, and then the business will start to grow in the region.
I guess we see that as well because, as you know, when we started our Labuan IBFC, the banking sector was the first one that came in, followed by insurance. Of course, trust companies are always there to manage all these number of companies. So over time, we see, like you mentioned, there are a lot more other investors or institutions that are interested to do other things, other businesses. So I guess that, like you said, it's either the banks need to innovate themselves or, like Praveen said earlier, to take out one or smaller fintech companies to be part of them. So I guess that's going to be, happening over time. So another question here that I have a couple. Okay. being a regulator, okay, I'm not so sure who asked this question, but what types of regulation that the industry seeks from the regulator, which is essential or lacking now?
Again, myself.
Okay, that could help us out as well, right?
In terms of, I'm not that familiar with the insurance industry, maybe he will be able to answer that one. In terms of the digital currency, there need to be more understanding in regards to what we do, rather than, if you try to regulate these new digital exchanges in line with the traditional bank, that might put more burden on us. The way in which how we communicate with the people, and the way in which how people communicate with other people, because all these will be part of the ecosystem that what we are doing. So a better understanding of the regulators in regards to how these new age digital currency exchanges work is very important. Otherwise, the kind of requirements that what you will bring in back to us is going to be a troublesome one. Even from the regulatory per se also, till now, what you have been trying to do is to get reports from us on a regular basis, and based on the reports, you assess that, whether what we are doing is correct or not. But the blockchain technology provides you such a vast control on these companies that you are able to audit us on a 100% basis. So you don't have to wait for us to come and identify, whether we are done right or wrong. You are able to identify them on an on-the-go basis. So a part of innovation will be needed from the regulator side also, to identify that, okay, this is the way in which they are doing, and in that manner you will be able to ease out the kind of requirements or burdens that what you will be putting on these digital currency exchanges, because you will be seeing millions and billions of dollars being transacted through entities like us. And when you see the numbers, usually the regulators will try and put more and more hurdles in regards to requirements, and also we don't need that kind of hurdles, because we are able to show to the regulators that this is what we are able to do, and you are able to regulate everyone on an on-the-go basis. So that kind of an innovation will be advisable from the regulatory side.
Well, one of the regulatory lacking is, we constantly hear a lot of abhorrent news, like something like Tether stablecoin provider. They've been sued by SEC in the United States for 1.4 trillion. And then we also heard some of the Telegram also sued by United States SEC. They're doing the tokenizations, which is not fully compliant. And then they have a lot of ding-dong saying, no, I'm right, and he said, SEC said you're wrong. So what's the lacking in regulatory is that we need regulatory to constantly give us impending information to us that this is, like a swimmer again. Don't go to the ocean because there's a big wave, typhoon coming. Don't swim today. So regulatory issue is that we need informations where...
Guidelines?
Yeah, guidelines. Guidelines to actually share to us, because we don't know what Tether did wrong. We don't know what the other guys in Telegram did wrong. We want to learn from them so we don't make the same mistakes. So that's where the regulatory here is lacking. If you have this piece of information, we always comply with it, so the guidelines. So that's the key, right?
If I may, I think the key question is always about alignment. Regulators, banks, talent, these are all stakeholders that any company needs to come together and cooperate to make it work. And to me, that's all a company is, especially a startup. We're just a bunch of people, a bunch of stakeholders who come together, who believe in something or a certain vision and do our best to make it happen. And I think that there is a huge amount of disalignment in the world today, especially in the financial markets. And actually, let me ask a question of the audience. Raise your hands, and I'm serious because I can see all of you. Raise your hands if you wake up every day and you go to work and you do a job that makes you feel fulfilled, like you're making a meaningful difference in the world in a happy, safe, secure environment, and you come home at the end of the day and you feel like you've made a difference in the world and been part of something greater than yourselves. We're supposed to be startups. I hope there are more hands. All right, let me ask a second question real quick. How many of you have more than 50% of your net worth invested in a company that you use or own or are a customer of in some way? I think that's a really interesting question, right? We all expect to show up to work and feel fulfilled. We all expect companies to be on our side. We all, we all complain that we don't feel like the countries that we live in are, something that we feel a part of anymore. We don't feel like the companies that we interact with, that we buy products from, are on our side anymore. And we wonder why. And I honestly believe that with all the kind of technologies we're doing, insurance, digital assets, we're all looking for ways to bring customers a little tighter to companies, just the way that social media and e-commerce has. And I think that with digital assets, for the first time, we can allow customers, especially stakeholders, to become involved in companies, to become shareholders of companies. And I think that there is no better way to align interest than that.
We almost time, but I have this one question that I thought that is interesting, and I think that I should put forward. Henry spoke about just now about purpose, going to work or life and all that. In what way you are contributing to a bigger cause or helping the country in this digital revolution path, or are you more focused on your own revenue and own company growth? I think this question will close our session today.
Can I make a quick plug then, not for my own company, but for the Labuan FinTech Association? We are here talking about FinTech and talking about Labuan. Arthur, stand up. Go see that man. Actually, go, everyone from the team, go stand up, go see one of them. I expect all of you to come sign up because we're all Labuan and all FinTech. And I honestly believe what I said. We need all stakeholders to come together to build a community, because that is exactly the problems we're running into, right? We need the regulators to talk to the banks, to talk to us as technology companies. We need us all to work together. And if we do, I honestly believe what I said, that we can turn Labuan into the FinTech hub of Asia.
Thank you, Henry.
Yeah. Thank you. In terms of blockchain transactions, one of the most primary requirement is to identify you all onto the blockchain system. So identification is one of the most important part. Whether it is insurance, digital assets, or whatever it is, if you have to do a decentralized peer-to-peer system, you and the other gentlemen need to be identified. So we are focusing on that particular part of digital ID. Not only us, Microsoft, many other entities, everyone is working on that one. But what we see in the future is that there will be hundreds of blockchains. It could be a Malaysia national blockchain, China national blockchain, there will be a road transport blockchain. But all these blockchains are going to have interoperability. So you're going to speak to each and every blockchain by being a part of one or the other blockchain. So a blockchain from China, a person belonging to a China blockchain, to communicate to you, to sell your assets or to buy your assets, they need to identify each other. So we are concentrating on this particular part of giving you a digital identity on the blockchain. Currently, whether you hold my card or passport or whatever it is, you don't own that. The institution owns that. You don't have any rights on that particular side. But wherein which the same passport, if that has been issued on the blockchain, you have the rights on that particular claim. And using that particular claim, you are able to transact in the future. So the future is going to be that your identity is going to be the key for any kind of transactions. So we work on that particular side. So that's how we intend to give back to the society. Thanks.
Yeah, so for me, I think, I'm very excited about Southeast Asia, including Malaysia. I think, right now, if we look at the general insurance awareness or penetration, Southeast Asia has one of the lowest, right? It's like less than 2%. And I think in many of the, part of the Southeast Asia, whether it's Indonesia or Philippines, really a lot of people who really are, in need of protection don't have access to it. And I think, to me, if one day that our company can make a small difference in terms of provide more easier to access, more transparent, more fair, some poor insurance to the, digitally savvy consumers and the majority of users in Southeast Asia, I think that will make both me and my company much happier.
Yes, for Neurogine, the way we contribute to FinTech is standardizations, because we know every country has its own standard. So We need to have a common standardization platform for the cross-border. Make sure every country we go in, the services that is compliance. That is one of the key contributions for us, think tank.
Yeah, as for HWGG Capital is, to be honest, we started the company in solving our own problem, and because we saw a demand there, ever since we push out our product and services to the market since early July, up to today, we have processed more than 40 million USD worth of transaction. So the market is definitely there. What we intend to contribute to the market is that we want to connect, be the bridge between the both world, the new digital blockchain world, and also the traditional business. So yeah.
Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
Very delightful session, and I hope that it is the same to all of you as well. So thank you so much for this session, and I think that we're heading for lunch, Waimon. Okay, if you have anything to ask or whatever, there are quite a few questions left. Please come and see our panelists, and I'm sure they'll be more than happy to share their experience with you about Labuan IBFC. Thank you so much.
And sign up for the FinTech Association.
Yes, and sign up.